Um, Start. Let's start with our session today.
So, hello everyone. I, on behalf of my entire team, welcome you all to this session on React Native. So, the name of the session is the Cross Platform Quest, the React Native Edition. So, rest assured, we hope that you walk away with valuable insights and new knowledge on the topic after the session. So, before we start, let's meet our team. I'm Kashish, and we have with us our other two speakers who are Vansh and Yash. So now that you're familiar with us, let's get started. So first things first, what is React Native? So React Native is basically an open source framework which the developers use to build mobile applications for both iOS and Android platforms. It also offers the code reusability features for different platforms while still ensuring a native like experience. So, what do I mean by native like experience? So, native like experience is basically having a good user experience and having a good level of performance. Now, moving on to the features of React Native. First up is it is a cross-platform framework. So, in simple words, you write your code once and you can use it anywhere. So, it has the ability to make mobile applications that can run on any platforms, be it Android, iOS, web, or other potentially platforms. And definitely, there is a reduction in development time and effort because of this. Also, React Native has a component based architecture. So, what do I mean by component? So, let us take a simple example. Imagine you're having a pizza. So, just like how a pizza has different slices, an app is also divided into different components. So, in React Native, the slice or the component has a specific feature and a specific work to do. So when you combine all these slices or the components, the whole pizza or the whole app is made. So in simple words, these are the building blocks of any app. These are something that the mobile applications are built upon in React Native. Moving to the UI of React Native, it has amazing UI. Firstly, it has very efficient, very flexible styling system, which makes the UI much more beautiful and much more uh, elegant in all way possible. Talking about the performance, it is similar to ensuring that you have a faster delivery of pizza. So, for example, your code is sluggish, so the user won't have an interest in using your app. So similar to how you don't like cold and old pizzas. So to overcome this, the React Native offers faster code execution as well as a smooth user experience. Also, React Native has access to the native modules. The developers have an extended functionality which help in integrating the custom native modules by exposing to JavaScript. In simple word, it creates bridges between JavaScript and the native codes. Also, it has ready to use libraries. But wait a second, what do you mean by a library? So, library is basically a collection of reusable codes that can enhance or modify your functionality in the mobile applications. Additionally, it has high development speed and also a very consistent user experience because of a combination of a unified structure of the React Native overall. Moving on to the basic terminologies of React Native. What is Expo? What is so special about an Expo? So Expo is something that helps building the React Native apps much more efficiently and much more easily. So it helps the developers to create, test, and deploy the mobile applications without needing much effort or much complex coding structure. Next up is TSX. TSX is the basics. It is TypeScript XML, which is the syntax extension for JavaScript, for TypeScript, sorry, which is used in React applications. Next is component. As we discussed, component is the building block of any React native application. Also, it is a reusable piece of code which can be used any number of times and anywhere in the code in the entire program. Next is a very, very cool and very, very important feature, that is the style sheet. So, style sheet basically provides a way to give styles to our React components. It is very similar to CSS, that is the cascading style sheets, but it is not like exactly same as that. So here we have a code snippet which shows how we can write a style sheet. So under style sheet, you can see container and title and different properties. So there is flex, there is padding, there is background color, font size, font weight, and many such properties which you can define for a React components. So after you execute this code, you can see this beautiful image of React Native as an output. Next, what is API? So API is application programming interface. It basically acts as a link between your app and the external servers. So for building any mobile applications, you have to perform four operations, which I'm going to tell using the four API calls. That is the get, post, put, and delete. So get is basically retrieving the data from the server. Post is basically sending the data to the server, and put is uh, updating the data, and delete is removing the data from the server. This is a basic code snippet of how an API can work. Next, in any developer's life, there is one thing which cannot be ignored, or which cannot be like you cannot run off with that thing. It is the errors. So, if you're good at finding errors and fixing errors, you will definitely be able to code in a much more efficient way. React Native also offers tools like React Dev Tools and Flipper that can be used for debugging. Next is hot reloading, which is also known as fast refresh. In technical terms, it is a feature that will allow you to see your changes in the code immediately without losing the initial state of an application. So let's go to the previous code. For example, I want to change the text, the React Native text to hello world. So I type hello world, and when I save it, you will be able to see the change in a fraction of seconds. So React Native doesn't take much time in the execution of code, and also it retrieves the state of the application. It does not have to run again the whole application. Additionally, it also has a feature of auto save. Okay, the languages that are used are JS and TS. JS is stands for JavaScript and TS stands for TypeScript. Next up is how to set up React Native. So setting up React Native can be a very tedious process, but we will be sharing you the official link to the docs in the description of the video. Do check it out, and I ensure you that if you follow the docs in a step-by-step order, you will be able to set up an environment for React Native in your system. But for your convenience, I'll be explaining you the steps briefly. So the step one is installing all the prerequisites, that is installing node.js and JDK, that is the Java Development Kit from verified sources. Step two is installing development tools, that is installing Android Studio, that is for Android development. Additionally, when you install Android Studio, you will have to install Android SDK, emulator, and platform tools as well. So after you're done installing all these things, you need to set up your environment variables in your system, which you can do as you can see in the picture shown here. So the step three is installing the React Native Expo globally. You can write this command in your terminal and the Expo will be installed successfully. So you are done with all the installation process and you are good to go with creating your new React Native project. You just have to go to your terminal and write this command, which is shown here, and you can start working on your app. So now I would like to hand over the session to Yash, who will be explaining you about the most important and most essential, the core components of React Native. Over to you, Yash.
Thank you, Kashish, for such a good introduction to React Native. Now, see, I assume that all of you guys have used applications in your daily life. For example, Swiggy, Instamart, etc. So, if you see those applications, you can understand that there are several components in it. there's scroll view, there might be scroll view, there's images, there's view, there's text. So many things are there in single application, right? Now, VR native have made it very simple to understand the components and to make such apps on an easy quick go. Right, we'll start with view. Now, what do you understand by view? Now, view is basically, think of view as a box, right, which can contain several other components. It is used to store several other components. And okay, you have to understand that there is something called parent view and child view. A parent view contains several child views, and if you change the property of a parent view, it can change the style of other views as well. For example, in this, the safe area view, like in the code snippet, the safe area view is a parent view that has child views such as views and views. Right? If you change certain properties of safe area view, the child views properties will change. Now, views can contain several views inside them as well. They need not to be of different components. For example, we can still hold a scrollable container, but it does not exactly need to hold a scrollable container. It can just have a text tag as well. Speaking of which, moving to text, a text tag or a text component is used to display text on a mobile application. See, in React Native, you can change the text property like its weight, its font size, its styling using style sheet, as explained by Kashish earlier. Text, there's nothing more to explain in this. Text tag is basically just to display text. Now, text tag, we have images. Images, okay. Images, you can all understand what images, right? Images tag is used to import images to a mobile application. It can be done in two manners. First, either you can have your images exported in, like, you have a image in your local directory itself, or you have an image URL which is to be pasted in the app, which gets loaded as the app is loaded. That is all to the images. You can resize, you can do all stuff with the styles of this. Now, one of the most interesting aspects of app dev is scroll views, which I find very interesting. Scroll views. See, scroll views are basically, the list is just scrollable, right? It can have several components as it, like for example, buttons, etc., which is scrollable. Now, React has two options for this. Either first, a scroll view, which is what we are discussing, or a flat list. Now, the difference between those are critical. I'll explain that moving forward. But first, right now, scroll view, what the scroll view does is, if you have 100 values, it puts all the 100 values all together, even if it is not representing all the 100 data on the single screen. Maybe only 10 data right now is being visible, even though, and when you scroll, 10 more is visible, right? But it will still load all the data together. That is scroll view. What does flatless do, which is different from scroll view, is improve improve on this in terms of memory. What flatless does is it understands how many views can be displayed on a screen. Maybe it is 10, maybe it is 5, maybe it is 2. It only loads that data. It only loads 2 data out of all the 100 data that exists over there. And as you scroll, it keep on loading and changing the data is in it. The Now, for data, like, okay, again, when you're talking about data, you have to understand that data can be of two types. One is the user inputted data, and there is what we are actually feeding it from a function. Let's talk about the user inputted data by text inputs. The text input tag. The text input tag handles the input of a data of a user, right? It has several attributes which I'll explain one by one. Starting with style. Again, style is just style sheet being applied over here. It is nothing new. We have all gone through this. We are going to on change text. Now, on change text is really important. Maybe you're creating a search bar. So you will create a state. What is a state? We'll come back to that once we are in the coding session. But right now, just bear with me. State is something that exists, right? If you're changing a state, you might, you're changing a text, you change that state. How do you do that? You will do that by on change text tag. Basically, whenever text is being changed into that input box, it is performing a function which is being called by onChange tag. This onChange text. Now, value. Right. Value is one of the, okay, fine. Value is the basic value that a text has, or a input has. The default value that a input has. Now, placeholders. Okay. We have seen Google search bars, right? It has when you're not writing anything in it, it just has search written on it. Right? That is a placeholder that tells the user what kind of information does that bar want. Does that what does it want? Right. That is how it is done. Also, speaking about Google search bar, do you understand that it's not a component in a sense? It is still a component, but it's not a component. But by what I mean is, it is a touchable opacity component. In a sense, you can make any component do a certain function and connect to that function by a touchable opacity. What it does is it takes anything like from a text to a particular view that you're designing and make it into a component which is pressable, so that a function is performed when it is pressed. It has touchable opacity. Speaking about pressable things, buttons are very pressable, and hence we have a different function or different component for it. It's called buttons, right? In React Native, buttons are used to perform certain function when they are pressed. They have headers, they have their titles, they have their colors, which are all properties which can have. Like for example, this button has the title "Press Me." So basically, it would display a text saying "Press Me." On press, it would give an alert. The alert button has been button with adjusted color has been pressed. Right. This is how button works. Now that we have all got up to the most basic components that there are in React Native, we will move on towards a demonstration of an app that we created for this session. That would be given by Vansh. Vansh, over to you.
Okay, so hello everyone. I will be giving a demonstration of our app. So here, here you can see this is our app. It is a basic photo gallery app in which you can search any image based on your text input or a voice search which you can give. So here you can see we are in our app.tsx. Basically, app.tsx is the main entry pointer of our app. In the app.tss, any component which has been given will be displayed in the app at the start of the app. Whenever the app starts, the first component that will be mounted will be this. So now I will be explaining you about mounting, state management, and what is the life cycle of an app. So before starting that, this is our package.json and package.log.json. This basically contains all the important and the necessary packages or the libraries that we have used in our app. As you can see here, we have used a React Native safe area context. We have used this as a safe area view, to apply to our app. And other different packages that we have used are such as for our React Native voice, uh, etc. And React Native itself, our library, which gives us the accessibility to use components such as view, text, button, touchable opacity. So now to build our app or test our app, there are two ways. One is in a development mode. Other is you properly build our app with a Android folder. So when you when you start to build the app in a development mode, you use npx expo start, and when you use npx expo run Android as a command line, you basically build an Android folder. An Android folder is been built locally, and that builds our app. So here I will be building our app using npx expo run Android. This may take some time depending upon your Wi-Fi speed. Till then, we will be talking about interfaces and API calls. So here you can see we have made an API call. This API call is a basic get API, a fetch function which has been performed where we fetch the data from the API. This API call is basically fetching all the data of our image which we are going to display. So to whatever image we are fetching, it has been performed by this asynchronous function. What does the asynchronous function do? So basically, a asynchronous function just waits until an API call has been made completely and all the data has been retrieved. And this we have put it in a try catch block so that if any error is there, we can see that. Now, moving forward, like whatever image we are obtaining, we are setting it to the property in a way which we are going to obtain it. So for that, I have defined an interface. For example, whatever image we are going to get, let's say we are searching an image for a plant, then the ID of that image, the size of that image, and whoever the photographer for that image is, and the width and the height and all the dimensions of that image are going to be displayed. Here I've started the emulator. Our app is being built here, as you can see. So now in the API call, API is basically application programming interface. To make an API call, we require a special API key, which is just a unique identifier for all the data and the authorization which we are going carrying out through our API call. Now here you can see as no image, no search input has been given, it shows no images found. Let's say I type plants. All the images loaded related to plants have been loaded here. Now you can see images per page I have specified over here as 16, and according to the dimensions of the window whichever we are using, the width of the image is being defined. Now here I will be explaining how this function is being carried out. So here we have defined some states for regarding the important states which are required for carrying out this function. As you can see here, a use state is being used. What is a use state? This is basically a React hook. React hooks are basic functions or features which are used to carry out the state management and the life cycle of an app. So as you can see, when I built this app, the first uh, component which was loaded was the image app. Now the image app contains this property which is search, according to which whatever we are going to be searching in the text input, it's going to display the images related to it. Now, the first time when the app was run, the image app was mounted over here, and the search bar and the other UI related of the app was being displayed. Now, whenever next as I searched the plants, all the images came. Now this happens using a use effect look. As you can see, load images. All the loaded images according to the search will be displayed on the first page. A use effect is also another React hook which uses to mount any component at any change if it occurs during the life cycle of an app. A life cycle of app is from the mounting of the app till the app is being closed is the life cycle of an app. Now here you can see we have made a search bar as a as different component. The search bar is a different component here, including some properties such as search text, the final text that has been to search as a query, and the handle search function to search that text. Now that handle search function is been defined over here, just that it is going to be a function which we are going to use, and it has been passed to this icon, the search icon. This icon we have imported from a library, the vector icons library. There, this for to use any library, you first need to install it using npm I, the name of that library. I will show you here how it is basically done. npm I React Native library, whatever library related to React Native you want to search. Also, npm I, what is npm? Npm is basically Node Package Manager that basically take care of all the packages and the libraries that you are being using, and it ensures that all the libraries are initialized and installed properly in the app. Now, in the image app, we have also used on the basis of how the image is going to be rendered, a touchable opacity and the image size. This here you can see as a block is a touchable opacity. So whenever I'm clicking on it, it opens. And this here cross button is also a touchable opacity. For that, the function has been defined over here as a on close button. Now, whenever this touchable opacity has been clicked, you can see the name of the photographer appears. How this has been taken care is using state management. In the initial state has been defined of an images, and the prop has been passed so that whatever we want to, whatever data we have got, we can display it easily in the app. Now, we also have a very cool feature in our app, which is the speech to text. Now, we have used a React Native voice slash voice library. Now, I will initialize this speech to text component in the app entry point. Now let's refresh the app once. Okay, so here initially we have specified some states, that is listening, which is initially false because nothing has been right now recorded or been or not the microphone has been used to listen anything. A result we are here using whatever we are recording or whatever the user is speaking, it has been converted into a text. Then the error. For example, when this speech to text is occurring, any error occurs or any noise is there in the background due to which the voice is not recorded properly, an error will be displayed. This is also used, set up using a React hook that is use state. And then as is search triggered whenever the on speech end, like the whenever the speech ends or the user is done giving his input as a speech, it is triggered by changing its state to true. Here we have used another special hook of React Native, which is use effect. The use effect basically contains all the listeners, the voice on dot start speech, on dot speech end, dot on speech results. This is basically all the listeners which are been initialized so that whenever we are going to start a recording, the we can the microphone records the voice and can be converted or recorded and turned into the text. Now here, Yash will be explaining you about how the listeners are being defined in the app.
Right, Vansh, thank you for the wonderful demonstration. Yeah. Now, this what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna code with you guys. I'm gonna code you and show how the listeners are defined for this particular function, right? So we'll first understand what are the listeners in here. Over here, we have on speed start, on speed end, on speed result, and on speed error. So okay, first of all, what does on speed start does? Okay, so well, what is on speed start? It's a function, which is why we're gonna define it as on speed start as a function, t as a function which takes this and we're gonna right. Okay, what does on speed start do exactly? It takes it and says, okay, I'm starting to listen to you. But, right, like first of all, it would start by okay, fine. On speed start is first it will turn this off. Okay. First of all, every single other instance has been created, and then move on. So that is what we're gonna do. Uh, that is what we're gonna do over here. We're gonna say set is listening off or false. Right. What else is gonna do if there's any loading that is happening, it's gonna stop it because the state has been called perfectly. Hence, we're gonna search. So we can say set loading as false. Set is loading as false. Now moving forward, we have right. Moving forward, we have set is searching as also search triggered as true because we're gonna search what has been spoken to the state. Right. That is what we are gonna do. We're gonna start by saying this is true and this is not named correctly. Not this is named correctly. What happened over here? Oh, false spelling is wrong. My bad. No, that is one function or one listener defined. We're gonna start with the next listener, which is on which is very similar, but just the opposite. So we'll define this. We'll say this is a function and no parameters has to be passed, and we'll create the function. Right. Wait. I did it opposite. On listening should be true, and yeah, the rest is fine. Stretch trigger is also false. My bad. My bad. No, here it is false. Set is listening as false. We'll set loading as true. True will set loading as false actually, and we'll say set triggered true. Search triggered true because we're gonna Now search what has been said. Right. Now the next listener that is there is speech result. Okay, this is pretty interesting because we have to define few things. What is the correct way of doing this? Speech capital result, speech result. This is the correct function if I'm not wrong. Results. See. So on speech results, we'll start with defining this as a function which has parameters, which is an event. An event is basically what is an event? An event is basically anything that is happening in a functional app, right? It could be listening or clicking of a button. It is still an event. What happens over here is we're going to take an event which is speech result event. What happens is like, okay, the speech has been given, the result has been out. Now I want what the result, the microphone has picked up as a result. So this is the speech result event, the result of a speech event. Right, this is going to be its parameter. Now we're gonna name it as a function and continue doing it. We have an if statement over here. If now we have a result, right? We have to see if the result is correct or the result has a length or not. So we'll say if it has value where is and event value event dot value dot length, which is basically saying that the string is not a empty string or a zero string greater than zero. Then we're gonna perform a function which is set results, set result as event dot value of zero, its initial value. That is that, and is set loading as off. Set loading off of false. Right now, next we have constant on speech error. We are gonna handle errors over here as well, which is on speech error. This is the correct way of typing it, right? Speech error, correct way of typing it. We're gonna type this through. Now, what does on speech error does is if there is any error that the module or the voice module is occurring, it would show that. It would pass this to the main app, and we want to handle that error. We don't want the app to suddenly crash. It's not a good practice, and it's not what we do. So we'll handle these errors very nicely, right? This is also an event. This would also be an event. The event would be uh, error event. Now okay. If now we're gonna have set error, set error, set error as error dot error message question mark dot message, or simply an error occurred. That is it. Error is not a string type. Error is not a string type. Messages. Yes, and this messages. Error is not a string type. Let's see. Why is this happening? Speech error event. Sorry, my bad.
Huh.
Speech error
And
event.
change the event to error also. Change the event to error. That way it
Event.
will be passing it as a proper name.
Yeah, right. Sorry, my bad. Event to error. My bad. My bad.
Yeah.
Messages is not just message. All right. So that being done, we'll set loading as false again. Loading as false. Set loading as false and set triggered search as false as well. Set listening as false. My bad. Set, set listening as false because error has occurred. We're gonna stop listening. So that is how you code this component, and the rest is explained by Vansh already. So this would lead to the demonstration that Vansh already showed. Vansh, would you please show that once again?
Yeah, okay. Just a minute. Uh, yeah. Okay, so as you can see here, as Yash has very well explained how all the listeners have been initialized. Also, one more thing here, you can see a question mark has been given to the error. This has been done in just in a case to handle nullability. If the error has been null, it will still return a message as error as null. Okay, here you can also see we have specified we are taking Android permissions. A request permission, a function has been initialized over here. This basically just takes the permission from the Android phone, whichever phone you be using. The Android phone is going to take permissions to record the audio. A modal will be displayed showing where you have to click on OK, that yes, I allow giving the permissions to record the voice. Now, after this function has been carried out, the main function of the start listening and the stop listening occurs. Okay, so let's see. Whenever I click on this microphone, this shows initializing. Once this initializing has been done, let's say I search plants, plants, um, plants. Yeah. So this now you can see as voice search the plants, all the images related to plants are visible. Okay, so whenever I clicked on that button, now this is another icon which we have used. See, an activity indicator is being specified. What does an activity indicator? You must have seen that buffer icon comes usually on the websites when you try to visit them or in apps. So that is just an activity indicator which we have used. Now the other icon which we have used is the microphone icon. So whenever the on is listening is true, we have specified an operation, ternary operation, where if it is true, the mic will be dis- will be displayed, and if it is false, a mic with the outline will be displayed. So whenever I click on it, a mic will be displayed. The two icons are different. Now, whenever I click on the touchable opacity, the first function will be carried out, which is the on listening function, the start listening. So it starts to take the response of the user, whichever whatever voice input he is giving. So here you can see in the try catch block, I have first stated voice dot stop. What that basically does, if any other voice function or microphone function has been carried out in your background or in your app, it's initially stops that and sets the result to null. Then it takes the voice input in the form of English. Here I can specify whatever language I want to start. In the voice dot start, the parameter which we are passing is the language in which the input is to be taken of the voice search. Then if any error occurs, if we have passed it in the catch block, and this is we console.error to see whatever the error is. This is another part of debugging to check whatever error is been occurring in our app. Now, once the voice has been recorded, the stop listening function has been carried out. It stops all the other functions of the voice which has been carried out, and if any error has been occurring during the voice recording, it displays that. This is the basic UI which we have set up for the app. Now you can see in the style sheet we have specified for whatever we want to have a UI for. Let's just say for this uh, microphone, we have set up the UI using the mic button, styles dot mic button. You can see here we have specified its width, height, its background color, and how is it going to be aligned. Justify content and align it to the center. This is the basic app which we have made. Now on clicking on load more images, it basically just refreshes the app and gives other images related to plants. So this was the basic app which we have built with a cool feature of speech to text. I
Thank you,
hope you heard.
Vansh. Right. Thank you, Vansh. Are there any questions that you guys want to ask us? Any question, any queries? None. This was us explaining you React Native. If you have any queries, please ask. Right. Kashish, would you like to say anything? All right. With that, we're gonna end this live stream. Thank you for joining us on this informative session on React Native. And I really hope that you